So, welcome to the show. You go back with me and Mike separately,
Yes.
interestingly enough, but it's nice to have us all together in the same virtual room.
Thank you for
And
having me.
Mike, since I think you were the person to last talk to Anil of the two of us, I'm guessing.
I think that's true.
You want to come in with our smoking hot first question?
I do. Our smoking hot first question, we come in hot on this show, is when is the last time you were worried about covering your monthly expenses?
Man, it's been a minute. There's two answers to that question. One is last May, and the other is in 2003, right? And it's sort of like there's structurally, and then there's because of where you are in your career, right? And so because the real one is 2003, which is like,
Right.
do I have the money to pay these bills in front of me? Right. And that was like, my wife and I had gotten together. We weren't married yet. She was in school. I'd gotten canned from a job. And it's like, this is how many dollars we have, and this is how many dollars we need, and that number is bigger than this number, right? And and that was us starting out together, and that's also where I indexed my how much do things cost in my head. Like that is still my measure. Like I was making $62,000 a year. That's more than anybody in the history of my family had ever made. It's more than my parents made. My dad has a PhD, and that's more money than he'd ever made in his life. And then I lost that job. And I was still paying off my Dell XPS laptop that I bought on my credit card, and was like, God damn it, why did I buy this laptop? And I mean, I remember it. I remember the box that I had to drop the envelope in for rent, and so that was a real, the thing I've tried to do every month since is is that is what paying your bills is. Like, remember that. Because I've been in a room with, I mean, since then, I had, lunch with Bill Gates before we knew that he was, on Epstein's jet. And I've had dinner with Bezos before we knew he was a union buster. Like I have been in a room with probably 15 billionaires over the years, 20. And to come out and be like, remember that feeling. And then the other answer was leaving my last role in the tech industry and being like about to be 50 years old, not being part of, I wasn't working on AI. I had been running my mouth, as I always do, about what the leaders in this industry are that I'm in, and knowing I'm never raising money from Mark Andreessen ever again. I didn't before, but I certainly am not going to start. And being like, I wonder what I'm going to do now. Because at that time I was talking a lot about 500,000 workers in tech have been laid off. Now it's 750,000.
Wow.
It's going to hit 1 million in a couple of months. And just sort of saying like the career and the industry that I have been in doesn't exist anymore. And so just looking with, eyes wide open about that. And I'm not prone to worry, but I'm kind of at one end of a continuum of overconfidence, I know I'm abnormal in that. And so trying to look at it like if you were a normal, rational person, you'd be pretty worried because some of the most talented, smart, wise people I know in this tech world have been laid off in the last couple of months or a year.
It's true, I believe, of the industries that all three of us represent.
Exactly. Yes.
In terms of some of the most, I'm not trying to correct you. I'm just
no. I just mean I also, that's my context too. Like I felt it first in, in journalism and in the arts, but to see it come for like the thing that was the fallback for people where they're like, well, I could always learn to code, and I'm like, well, I got bad news for you now. So I think that was it. That was always the one that was so many people I know were the, one partner or spouse was doing the thing that mattered in the world, whether it was art or, working for an NGO or a nonprofit. And then the other person was, well, I'm gonna work in tech so I can help you do that. You know what I mean? And now that other person that was supporting the noble spouse was the person that had been destabilized. So that's been that thing that's been on my mind a lot.
Well, one of the reasons I thought you were a good fit for this show, though, is I feel like you've often worked in that space between tech and journalism and art.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're such a supporter of art and such a fan. I think if people know you, if I want people to know you for one thing besides your smarts about tech, it's that you're the world's #1 Prince fan. And I mean, I don't know, Mike. I actually don't know if like I can continue. I'm sure you're on the continuum. I mean, we all are.
Right.
But like Anil has done such great work about Prince in addition to just being a fan. I think that's what I'm thinking of. But you really live in that intersection and have a lot of knowledge about all three. So, I
mean, I've aspired to it. Like, I think one of the things I've tried really hard to do is not be pigeonholed. I mean, I think about even just like, I'm like the last person standing who still has a personal blog, right? And
John Scalzi, I see it. Friend of the pod,
that's
John
right.
Scalzi.
No, folks, that's right. Yeah, folks are still going. I shouldn't diminish that. But I do feel like it's a lonely path for those of us that still do it, right? And I see, as we record this, we're just past the 10th anniversary of Prince's passing. And, I just wrote up a little remembrance and like, here's a link to a bunch of stuff I've written over the years. And it's funny because there's people that, they subscribe to my blog by email. And I'll be writing like, here's a way to look at what's happening in AI or whatever right now. And I'll write like, look, I've written, I don't know, 50,000 words about Prince over the years and, hours of podcasts or whatever. And people know that about me if they know me. And I'll write this one thing that I've written in many months about it. And like all these people will unsubscribe, to the emails. And which I have no problems about. I actually probably get a perverse enjoyment from it. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, wait till I send you, like, I could just send a photo of like, here's Prince in leg warmers in a bikini. Like that could have been the email. You know what I mean? Like I gave you the nice version. And also that was coming off a weekend where, my wonderful friend Angela Duff, who is at NYU, she hosts these symposia gathering together academics from all over the world that do, all kinds of wonderful works about Prince. Like they're doing their academic research. Like people talk about me being a fan. I'm more visible, but there are people that are so much deeper and so much more schooled. Like these are PhDs and these, brilliant researchers, and they have done, so much thoughtful work. And like it's a community, and these people that are just sort of doing this work. And that thing, being able to think about that in the same lens as the AI researchers that I talked to, who in some cases are people that were like, this is this field that is 50 or 75 years old. And now when people think of this thing that I've been studying of like this math that I love to geek out on, they think of the worst people in the world making tools that generate images of their kids, and they're like so grieving over it. And so like that thing of like, I love nerds. Like I love people that geek out and love the thing they love. Like my bio on all the social media networks is like, I'm a big fan of being a big fan, and that's really what I feel. And that idea of like, you don't have to just be one thing. And so I started with like talking about blogs. Like everybody's blog these days is like, oh, what do you write? Like people, I say I have a blog. Like, well, what do you write about? And I'm like, whatever I love. Like, and it changes every 5 days, and so I think that thing of like not having to be one thing or one person. And like you both, I mean, I say this genuinely as a fan of you both, like one of the things that's been so inspiring over the years is like, you all have so many facets, and it's not a short sentence to say what you do, and there isn't like a single noun after your name. And I think like that's so, like I'm so appreciative of that in the world, because people are not can't be reduced in that way.
I think part of the reason that's the case is because of current economic pressures. Sort of.
How do you sell yourself?
It's and in addition to that, it's difficult to make enough revenue to live on if you put all your eggs in one of these baskets these days. So typically diversifying is part of how creatives have to make a living. I'm curious from your perspective, like we said, we're representing the intersection of like three different industries that all have gone through enormous changes recently. And I would
Mm-hmm.
say for music and for journalism, tech has been a big part of why those changes happened.
100%.
I'm curious from somebody inside the tech industry, what do you think is the biggest factor influencing the changes within tech?
I mean, there's a number of them. At the highest level, it's that so many people making the decisions aren't fans, right?
Hmm.
And like, at the beginning of my career, I had moved to New York City. I mean, and I can say this here in no small part because, like, well, I'm on to be in New York, but also like, I was like a Prince fan, and he had a song called "All the Critics Love You" in New York, and I was like, oh, I got to go there. I mean, I ended up working at the Village Voice because I was like, oh, Nelson George had been there writing, and like that was who he was talking about. Like I was like, you make decisions that way when you're 20 years old. You know what I mean? like it's not like I wouldn't say that out loud then, but now I'm like, that's great. Like, go do that. Make decisions that way. That's not any dumber than moving to a city to chase a girl or whatever. Like those are all of a piece. And so I ended up, first I was like a lackey in the music biz. I was at a video production shop. I did like, editing music videos and stuff. And I ended up adjacent to the major labels when Napster hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being I was the most junior person in the room. And my job was to shut up and sit in the back, during this meeting. And we were with like a very senior VP at BMG Records at the time, and in Times Square, and they had the building's got Christina Aguilera on the outside, and this giant poster and whatever. And they hadn't said anything all meeting. They're talking about all this promo, digital promo, what they're doing online, all these things. And at this time, there's no YouTube, there's no nothing. It's summer of 2000, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing about Napster?" And he turns and looks at me, and he's like, "What's Napster?"
Ooh.
And I'm like, y'all are fucked. I just was like, I have got to get out of this industry. I just was like, I got to run. And I went to, eventually, because I know how to pick them, I went to a newspaper. I went to the Voice, right? And my third day there, Craigslist launched in New York.
Ooh.
Wow.
And, they were making all their money on classified ads. That was what I was working on, the system for that. And I went to my like boss's boss, because I had no idea about decorum or what's good for my career. I didn't know. I was just like, I'm going to talk to this person, and I was like, what are you guys doing about Craigslist? And he's like, who's Craig? And I'm like, oh no, and it was just
Maybe we should not have asked you on the show.
the curse. No,
what do you know about podcasting industry right now?
You know what? I was there when the tomes were written. I was there when the formats for podcasting were created, and the thing about it is they were made to empower the people because nobody owns podcasting. And so that was the difference, right? Was that
all he needs an RSS feed, man.
Exactly. And so like that was what I learned from it, was the structure of like who owns the thing. And it was right in that moment where we were like, what if you made things that people can own? And like, I didn't get it before then, but I kept seeing the institutions that I thought I aspired to. Like, I didn't want a major label deal, but I wanted to be around the people who wanted one. And like, I didn't want to necessarily write for a newspaper, but I wanted to help the people who did. And then I saw that those were ephemeral. Like they couldn't, this was just standing on sand. And then you're like, oh, you can't count on any of this. And so literally while I had that job at the Village Voice, my friends invented the tools that within a year I helped give to Nick Denton to found Gawker, and to Ariana Huffington to found Huffington Post, and to and on and on and on, right? And I was just like, oh, this is it. Like you could just see it. And then working with the people that were like, we're going to invent this way to put MP3s on people's iPods, and that's going to become podcasting. And so you could just see that something new was possible, and it would empower people. And like, there's a lot of problems that came from that. I mean, we're like, oh, what bad thing could happen if we destroyed the old media? But like, it was really that was where I was so galvanized by it. I mean, I still am. It's 25 years later, and I still am like, there is hope and potential in, this idea. I talk to people every day about like, there's a reason that like you listen to podcasts and they don't have to make a face like a YouTube thumbnail to get you to listen to it. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you about podcasting because, I think that there are people who don't understand why it is still vibrant. I mean,
Yeah.
there are problems like the takeover of celebrities and the
Sure.
bros is
Yeah.
is an issue. Like I was part of like second wave, I think, with Crooked,
Yeah.
and then COVID came and the celebrities
Yeah.
just
Took over.
overtook everything. However, it's still a vibrant industry.
Yeah.
And there's structural reasons for that I'm not sure everyone understands. So please, like, why don't you
Yeah.
explain what it is about the podcasting, the tech and the format that's allowed it to
Yeah.
remain vibrant, unlike other social media sites, let's say.
I think the first thing I could start with is what you see as a person who might listen or, experience podcasts, which is when you, at the end of a show, you hear somebody say, listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. And your favorite YouTubers don't say, watch our videos wherever you watch videos. And because they can't.
Right.
They can't get that distribution and the videos can't travel, right? You could imagine a world where somebody says, on YouTube, they're like, or watch us on your Samsung TV app, that's built into your TV. And like, wow, how come I can't do that? And the reason is like podcasts are built on this open technology that nobody owns. And so a lot of things come from that are amazing. And email is the same way. Like you don't have to ask somebody, who do you have your email with when you send them a message, right? And
What's your email client? You don't need to be like,
exactly. What's your app?
Are you using
exactly
the whatever Outlook? Are you using
exactly?
Apple
or like
Mail?
when somebody's work email is run by some other company, you can still send it to, if you have Gmail at home, you can just send them an email and you don't have to think about how you translate between those things. And these are the powers of like, you don't have to know how the technology works underneath. You're just benefiting from the fact that nobody owns it and that it was open. And so a lot of things come from that. One of the biggest things is, again, this artifact that we see in a podcast where somebody will be like, we're going to pause for our sponsor. If you want to, whatever, get a website or buy a mattress or whatever you do, tell them that you came from our podcast. Here's this little code we want you to say. The reason you're doing that manually is because there isn't the way to do the surveillance-based tracking that they do on Facebook and on YouTube and on Google and all these other things, because it's an open system. You're not entirely within their like Orwellian nightmare tracking system that they have if you're consuming media entirely within Spotify or entirely within, like I said, YouTube or within Facebook or Instagram or, all the meta platforms or whatever. And so, which is really great for your privacy. And so there's a lot of really great benefits there. So like all these things happen because something's open. And then a lot of other things happen for creators. So like one of the great things as a creator is, assuming that companies are willing to do the responsible thing, like you can take your subscribers or followers with you when you go from like, I was working with Crooked and now I went, like I had a podcast with Vox Media and we had a great relationship and then that was done. And I literally 6 years later, I'm like, I'm going to start show up again. I was like, can you guys give me my feed with my followers? Cause I'm going to do it. And they're like, sure, we got you. That's incredible. You can't do that. Like YouTube would never say, I'm going to move my show over to like Instagram. Can you give me all of my YouTube subscribers? They will never do that, right? And that's the kind of thing that podcasts let you do. So that's all the power of, again, 25 years ago, 20 plus years ago, people making a format that was open. It's not owned by anybody. You don't have to pay to use it. And and the funny thing is like, technically it's like not very complicated. It is not very advanced. Like we don't even like, it's not even super well designed. It just kind of works. Like the whole internet is like that. None of this is like super advanced technology. It just is good enough to just barely work. And every device you have, all your phones and your iPads and your laptop and everything just happen, and your TV, they all happen to support it. And so that's just like quietly radical architecture that the whole internet is like. I mean, even the web itself, when you're surfing around, it's like that. Like it is a miracle that we're able to go to every website and they all kind of work the same way, and that we're able to buy stuff with a credit card online, and that we didn't have to go through one central choke point. Like we had to use one Visa from one bank to buy everything online. Like that everybody's able to use everything online. Like those are not, people fought for that. People fought Supreme Court cases all the way, to the Supreme Court in order for us to be able to use, all those tools to do it. And so I think that's the stuff that, like, coming from that community of the people that were idealists that fought for that stuff, like, I'm really excited about. I think people are coming around to appreciating the benefits of that stuff. And I don't need everybody to understand the tech. I just need them to understand that it's possible to have good things and that we should fight to have more good things.
And it sounds like to some degree we take them for granted too.
Yeah.
That, that it's just here and it just works. We don't really question it. And I think it's fascinating as sort of a, I'm a semi-intelligent person, but I'm sort of like mindless tech user. Like I just plug stuff in. And
most people
right.
are.
Yeah,
and also I would say not just a user. Users actually do pretty sophisticated things without realizing.
And that's sort of. That's exactly what I mean. Like I use it all without really any understanding of the tech that's underpinning it. And it reminds me of, like, sometimes when I'm using GPS, like I tour and I don't know where I'm going and I'm so dependent on the information on the screen. And, like, I remember one day thinking, like, how is this free? like how, and I'm wondering.
That's a wonderful example. Like, GPS was a government project for decades to get those satellites up there. We paid for it. Our tax dollars paid for it.
A lot of the stuff we think of as free is actually public.
Exactly.
I would make a distinction between public and free, meaning we paid for it already.
Interesting.
Not that it's free.
And this is one of those things, like, not to nerd out too much, but, like, the part of the White House that oversees policy for things like, GPS, Office of Science and Technology Policy, has been gutted. And so people, like, people like, I don't care that the OSTP in the White House has been whatever. Like, they don't know. Like, how would you? Like, no normal person is going to know those things. And it gets so abstract. And you talk about, like, there's a protocol under the podcast and it's called RSS. And I'm like, I get why people's eyes glaze over. But if we can talk about, like, isn't it wonderful that you can listen to a podcast on anything? And isn't it dangerous that Spotify is calling their shows podcasts sometimes when you can't listen to it on anything, and then be like, we have to fight. Like, now, to their credit, some of their shows, they've been like, okay, we're going to open it back up so you can listen on anything. And that's good, but that comes from fan pressure. So just encouraging people to have fan pressure. The thing I think is really positive, though, is people are getting more sophisticated in understanding it. The best example I can think of is, if you go back, 10 years ago, I think people were like, no user or consumer will ever understand intellectual property, right? Like, it's so complicated. Even artists don't understand it, or creators don't understand it. And this was the thing that came up with AI, where people are like, all the AI companies are taking all this content without consent. And how are we ever going to have people in an uproar? And I'm like, there's an entire generation that has grown up listening to Taylor's version. They all understand intellectual property. Like, that problem is solved. Like, we don't have to do any education about, do you think artists should control consent over how their content is used in the world? Like, I say 2 words. I say Taylor's version. And there's 100 million people that I got it. Got it. And now when I start to say to, like, groups of people I'm talking to, do you think Sam Altman should be able to use Taylor's version without paying her? It's done. It's done in 10 seconds. Like, what used to take me like half an hour of, like, oh, this is the thing. And back in the day, Prince used to write slave on his face. I don't have to do none of that. Like, I can just start in 10 seconds and they're like, well, we like Taylor better than Sam Altman. And we're there.
I have a hobby horse I want to see if you can join me on.
All right.
That what is happening to newsletters in terms of the lack of portability. Like, I'm a Substack hater from way back.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Yeah. And I've, people talk about the Nazi problem. That's a problem. There's actually structural stuff that scares me more.
Preach.
And that's why I've been trying to get, I had a friend last night literally say to me, thank God I talked to you about this a year ago. I would have been on Substack if it weren't for you. And it just seems so clear that their model is falling apart. And if you want to talk about, you probably can explain it better than me. So
So I think there's a couple things to hit. So one, email is a a blessing of the internet, just like podcasts are. And its core,
Public. We paid for it.
exactly.
It's now all ours.
Nobody owns it. You can take your subscribers with you wherever you go. Your email subscribers. You can email anybody. You don't have to pay, a fee when you email somebody. Like all that stuff is there. Now, if someone provides you with a good tool to email people, then they can charge for that. That's fine. But it is an amazing, wild success that people can send trillions of emails and control it and own it. And Substack comes from, and also there's lots of great alternatives. Like I use one called Button Down. There's Beehive. There's Ghost. There's even like back the old classic ones, Medium and WordPress. Those are still around there. They send emails. So there's lots and lots of alternatives. Because email is open, there can be lots of alternatives. That's what a healthy market looks like. I think people have forgotten that there used to be healthy markets with lots of competitors, but like that choice and optionality is a feature. That is a good thing. It is not bad. Like you're not going to be confused and overwhelmed. People have little charts that'll like compare. So the thing to understand about Substack is it comes from a moment, really around kind of early COVID, where there's been a political project by a lot of players in Silicon Valley where they understood the importance of controlling the narrative and controlling media. And they were starting to be held accountable by mainstream journalism, like the New York Times and others. And what they started first was they boycotted those media outlets. Like, we're not talking to you, we're not giving interviews, we're not previewing our products for you. But they were so angry about there being any questioning of their authority, of their, actions, that they really went to war. And this was, this really had started half a decade prior when Peter Thiel went to war against Gawker, right? And they saw that like it was possible to have those victories. And so they realized like we have to have our own outlets, control our own media. And this is like a sort of classic authoritarian playbook, and present alternatives that we control in a media ecosystem. Like we have to destroy those media outlets, the classic journalistic outlets, and we have to have our own outlets. And they were very intentional about it. So like on the one, building their own outlets, they had things like Substack for, publishing media. They had Clubhouse, if you remember when everybody was jumping in Clubhouse, early COVID. That was going to be like talk radio for them. They had a series of other things. They had their own media publishing arm within Andreessen Horowitz, the biggest of the venture capital firms. And then, like Mark Andreessen, who was like the big figurehead at that firm, like he would host a Clubhouse room, or was in a Clubhouse room that was called How to Destroy the New York Times. It's not ambiguous, right? And Ben Horowitz, who was, one of the other founder there, his wife Felicia would host all these different cultural figures, trying to bring them in the Clubhouse to try and have this be like, this is where culture is made. And Substack happened at the same time. And they were saying, we need to fund advancing our ideas out there. So like, Barry Weiss and all these other people, and they funded radical concepts that they wanted to put into culture. And this is different in kind.
They also came to me. They also came to like a bunch of other people, but it's very clear in retrospect what they were doing was buying market share. They 100%. were also, I don't know how intentional this was. They were destabilizing the journalism industry.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying.
And presenting a project and making a project out of, we don't want collective publications. We want one person, one voice at a time.
Exactly.
And it creates a level of precarity that I don't think the people who grabbed that money were a culture of precarity. Actually, I would say a culture
they wanted
of
to get
and precarity.
The voices that drove traffic to the Times and to the Post and to these big publications that they knew were necessary for the ad model to work. They wanted to pull in, and like I said, they wanted to also use the legitimacy of voices like yours to take voices that were saying radical things and be able to put those radical concepts alongside the legitimate voices, right? And cross promote. So like that was a very intentional strategy, because they know network strategy because they're on the board of Facebook, right? Like, Mark Andreessen, Peter Thiel, they were on the board of Facebook at the time. And so like, that's this thing of like, I think people really don't understand the intentionality when you have unlimited funds and you have access to the data to see how behaviors happen on Facebook, on Instagram, on WhatsApp, on all these platforms. It's like watching, that map they have of like in Pelham 123 of how the subways run, right? You're like, you know where all the train cars are and how everything goes. You know where everybody's moving. You're like, you can replicate that. You can just sort of copy and paste that strategy. And I think, they're very smart people, and they had a very intentional goal, and they understood that they were able to take apart something as big as Gawker. They could dismantle, the pressure points, the weak points of the media outlets that they were explicitly saying they wanted to destroy in their clubhouse rooms. And the problem about all this stuff is, like, you talk about it, and people look at you like you've got like red strings on a cork board, and I'm like, it's not a conspiracy if they're talking about it in public. And then, the other thing is just like at a technical level, like Substack is a very good tool for sending email newsletters. And then what you look at now, is people will do this. Oh, I'll send you a link. And they're like, oh, you just have to download the app to read it. And then you get into the app and you have to have an account. And then you want to send comments and you have to have an account and notes. And then the authors are like, well, I want you to use the app because I want to see if you like my stuff. And I want to see if you're going to comment. And all of a sudden, oh, I'm sending messages you can only read there. And so you've brought into this proprietary environment. That is not a newsletter anymore. That's not email anymore. That is just a closed social network. And they've been very aggressively accelerating this.
You can't take those with you.
Now you're locked in. And yesterday, Hamish McKenzie, CEO of Substack, as we record this, it was the day prior, had said, oh, you can't rely on email anymore.
Whoa.
Messages just don't go through. You can't count on that. You're going to have to rely more and more on the tools we're giving you. And he links to one of their technical guys talking about how, it's just getting so hard out there to send those messages. So like they're boiling the frog right now. And gosh, I'm shocked to see gambling going on in this establishment, right? Like it's not, like it's the most predictable thing in the world. And then there's the content moderation piece, right? To have their CEO, there's a great clip from The Verge where, Neil Patel had asked him about, like, if you have somebody on there saying, I want to exterminate brown people, like, are you going to moderate them off? And he's just like, no. Okay. Like, cool. Message heard. Got it. Message received. And so, it's wild when we don't mind paying Nazis who are on our platform is the last of the objections.
I mean,
that's where they are.
It's a big objection, but what I get frustrated
the structural stuff is the
it's
problem.
Like we have people as Substack newsletters on the podcast.
Sure,
I'm not.
I get how they got there. I know why they got there.
It is an easy platform. I don't fault people. Yeah. It is I would say, it's the best, easiest to use.
And they're most familiar with it too. People consider it the default.
It's the default. I've started a Substack. But the reason to get off, the way I put it to people is not because there's Nazis there. It's because you will be trapped with them.
Yes.
Like, do you want to be handcuffed to Nazis when there starts to be even more? Not right now. There's a few.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Wait until Elon buys it. Wait until
Right. Well, and that he can buy it is the issue, right? So what happened with us on Twitter was he was able to buy our network and our tweets and have it, right? On email, he can't buy email. They can't buy podcasts. They can buy Substack. And when we're locked in, if you're locked into Substack, they can buy you. If you have an email newsletter, they cannot buy you. And if you're locked into Substack, what they will do is start to cross promote to the thing that they want to amplify. So every person who's still on Twitter is seeing Musk's, they said this, they promote Musk's tweets to 100% of users on Twitter, 100%. And he amplifies accounts that have showed generated images of sexualized images of children. Okay. We used to universally agree this was the line that was too far. Every person still on that service is susceptible to that. So every person that's putting their content exclusively on there is saying, I don't mind that you will be exposed to this person that amplifies that content. People can make their own choices. I won't do that to the people I love. That's my choice. The same thing will happen to people on Substack. I guarantee it. It's only a question of when. And so if you know that's going to happen and you think that is a bad thing to happen, I can give you options that, by the way, are cheaper that, by the way, will give you more controls. It is not as convenient right now to migrate. Okay. Are you going to choose convenience over everything? Over everything? That is got to be the question.
Hmm.
And I know people got up and marched. We had the biggest demonstrations in the history of this country. I know people have sold their Teslas. I know people have inconvenienced themselves in so many other ways. Let this be one. That's all I'm saying.
Wow. I wanted to talk to you about what I'm sure is one of your favorite subjects,
Hit me.
NFTs.
Let's
Now,
go.
I was gonna say that sounds sarcastic.
Now, you know,
Right
No,
away.
it's real. I deserve it. Let's go.
well, you know, there's a specific sort of angle that I wanted to ask you about because part of the discourse that happens around AI reminds me of the discourse around NFTs as it
Mm-hmm.
came into my life.
Yeah.
Both things were sort of presented to me, an artist, like, oh,
It's
hey,
inevitable.
broke artist, aren't you tired of being broke and not having things to help you make money? Well,
Mm-hmm.
look, this is a way. These NFTs are a way where your digital output will have this value that people will pay all this
Yeah.
money for. Similarly, AI, in the times when I was first hearing about it, is presented like, oh, look at all of these ways that you can actually wear all these hats you have to wear because you can just let robots do it for you and help you make
Yeah.
money. Um,
It's going to give you back time and
right.
make it efficient. Yeah.
So, you know, just from your perspective, I'm curious about like that sort of approach. Like, how intentional is that messaging and trying to get artists to, you know, sane wash a lot of this stuff for
Yeah.
people? And then also, what has it felt like for you to be at the ground level of these things and have these good intentions and watch them
Yeah.
get turned
Yeah.
to shit?
Yeah. So first I'll explain a little bit about my nominal relationship to NFTs, right? Which is quite a while ago, 12 years ago now. I did a art project with a wonderful, brilliant artist, Kevin McCoy. He and his wife Jennifer are really established artists here in New York. You know, they work in the MoMA, and like he's taught at NYU. Just incredible, talented guy. And we were in a program that the Arts Atelier Rhizome does with the new museum every year called 707, where they pair up an artist and a technologist to do these sort of different kinds of experiments. I don't know which one I was supposed to be because he's both an artist and a technologist, but I was there to help him out. And the thing we wanted to do is, like, at that time, the idea of blockchains was new. There are an interesting technology separate from what happened with all the crypto
Right.
bros and whatever. Like, they just on their face are a tech that I think is new, but in the same way, I think spreadsheets are really interesting. Like, they're just cool. And so we're saying, like, if you can prove that somebody has title to a work, you could do some interesting things around, like, being able to, like, help somebody who wants to, you know, sell a work to a, you know, a collector or something like that, be able to do that more definitively. And he'd had that problem as somebody who is a digital artist in selling works. Like, people had, you know, felt unsatisfied when they, like, pay a lot of money for an artwork and get, like, a little USB drive,
Mhm.
right? And so we went and like, we were coding all night and ended up, you know, hacking this thing together. And we did this presentation in the new museum of a completely free, open source, not commercial project that we kind of jokingly called monetized graphics, or monograph. And we put it out there, and it's the first time that a blockchain had ever been used to secure a digital artwork and say, this person definitively owns this, and if the title's transferred, you'll be able to have a record of it that can't be erased. And the people in the room, like, politely clapped, and a couple of people were like, that's really cool. And then nobody cared, right? Like, for 5 years, like, I don't think anybody would have pissed on us if we were on fire. And then later, like, the crypto bros were kind of like, and actually, to their credit, like, there's the one guy that kind of invented Ethereum, which is the one kind of crypto token system, and was like, this would be a really interesting application of it. And then nobody cared. And then later, when, like, there's sort of this giant crypto bubble, and they're looking at, like, where can we put all of this and what can we do with it, people start to come up with a name for this idea, which they come up with non-fungible tokens, which is a horrible name. And
Fungible.
say,
I mean, it's a fun
yeah,
word to say. It sounds like fungi, right?
yeah,
And
it
it has the
does.
word fun in it.
Exactly. It's a fun baked in. And, and they kind of corrupt the idea and they pretend they care about art and all these other things happen. And all of a sudden people are buying monkey pictures for $1 million. And the thing that always got me is I would say at the time, like, hey, who drew that monkey picture? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, you're an art collector who doesn't know who made the art? Like where they do that at? Right? Like that's not what a fan is. That's not what an art appreciator is. And so it's really obvious it was just like speculation and hype and doing all these kinds of things. But, Kevin and I, they were like, these guys invented NFTs. And so I got a really clear lens into what they wanted to make of this technology, right? And also a ton of people came at me. They're like, this guy made this horrible thing, right? And, for me, it had been very much of a piece of like, kind of going back to like being a Prince fan, like the line he wanted to be remembered for, he said many times was like, if you don't own your masters own you. Talking about master recordings. And to me, it was like my motivation was very much of a piece with how do you help creators be able to have title to their works and be able to assert, provenance and have a record of that can't be taken away. I still care about that. There's actually a way to do that in the AI slop era too. There's no blockchains involved, but like, I still care about that tech. I'm still pursuing that. I don't talk about it because like, I don't want people to come for my neck, but like, I'm like, there's no crypto involved and whatever. It's just a database. But that idea, I think, still matters. But what happened with NFTs was you could see they just wanted to do digital speculation on everything. Since then, we've had like every athletic event I watch is just ads for gambling. Mm-hmm. And everything is sort of rampant speculation. And the reason they go for artists is they want the credibility. They want the cultural cachet. One of the driving forces for all of the authoritarians in Silicon Valley is they cannot stand that they're not cool.
Right.
They don't get it, and they don't get why, and they will do anything. They will buy an entire multi-billion-dollar platform of social media to try and feel like they're cool. And I mean, it happened. Like I would see this like at the tail end of when I still interacted with these people, when I was still in that part of the industry. They would always kind of like try to be subtle and approximately be like, how come you get invited to stuff? They're like, you're not a millionaire. Why do they let you go to parties where rappers are? Do you know what I mean? And I would be like, they like me, man. I don't know what to tell you.
This is the story of politics in this era too. It's just in the relationship is to media figures and to journalists who also don't think they're cool. So it's really kind of funny.
Yeah,
but
it's sad.
But there is like this thing where like Donald Trump wants to be in the New York Times. He does. Yes. Like he whatever. He calls it the failing New York Times. He wants to be in the New York Times.
The thirst is visible, right? It's Pete desperate and it's sad.
My Pete Hegseth story is that Rolling Stone wanted me to write a profile of him, and I kind of knew him we used to drink together, actually. From back in the day when like people in Washington like would meet up in green rooms.
Is that a cautionary tale about drinking? Is that what that is?
It's a cautionary tale about Pete Hegseth, for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, valid.
But I approached him to do this profile, and he should have said no 100% right away. Did he?
But he can't resist the flame.
He wanted it so bad. Yeah. Like he went to bat like for this against Fox over and over. Like Fox is smart. Fox is like, no fucking way are you talking to a Rolling Stone reporter.
Right. That will not acquit you well.
Yeah. But he wanted to be in Rolling Stone so bad. And I will say he probably would have fucked up. Like he probably would have said things. I mean, I salivate thinking about all the shit he would have said, man.
Yeah.
But all those guys, and they are guys for the most part, it's the same model. Like they want the cultural cachet. That's why they get so mad at Hollywood. You know, like they want to be the cool kids.
And they keep funding these like horrible flop ass films and all this kind of stuff because they don't get it. And I'm like, you can buy your way into whatever, but it doesn't mean people want to hang out with you. And, like Ben Horowitz used to start every one of his blog posts with a quote from a rapper. And it was the corniest shit I've ever seen in my life. And, and I just used to like, and people would be like, look at him doing this. And I was like, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but like, I know what they say about you behind your back, man. Like, it's not like that. You don't got it like that. And so like, that was really that era of like these guys thinking they were on top of the world. And like, they have since bought a lot more power. Like, obviously, like they won politically right now, but they're still not cool. And it eats them up.
The thing is, authoritarianism is not cool. I mean, it's not. It's literally not popular. I mean,
these guys don't even have the fascist uniforms. You know what I mean? Like, at least past
where's
fascists
the Hugo Boss of our
era?
Yeah,
I'm like, you guys could at least have like some fly fascist fits, but you don't. And that's like, it's embarrassing. But yeah, that thing, like how much that animating force of like, how do we be culturally relevant? How do we have taste? How do we have like people aspire to want to be around us is such a huge part of what they are. Yeah. Again, why did they go after Gawker? Gawker had good parties and they didn't get invited.
They were also mean. I mean, like,
it's not, but that's not why. They use that as they use that as a reason. They're like, they're being mean to us, and so we want to go after them. But like initially, they were like, we don't get invited to cool parties, and they do. And like that is a big part of what they represent.
It's a fundamental misunderstanding about what it means to punch up versus punch down.
Sure. Yeah.
Because Gawker,
I mean, I'm
is
not
punching
excusing Nick Denton's judgment about who you go after.
I think this is true in general, which is the people that want to be cool are actually the ones punching down when they do that. And they don't, because they think it's about coolness and not about fucking money.
Yeah.
If someone is more wealthy than you are, it is always punching up, right?
Mm-hmm.
If someone has, like, okay, we can talk about cultural capital. Cultural capital is...
but it's a lot of broke artists.
We have a lot of cultural capital. Tell me how I'm going to pay my mortgage with the cultural capital.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And so it's a fundamental misunderstanding that they felt like they're punching up, but like punching out, AJ Delario is never going to be able, like, he's going to live under the thumb of that decision. Sorry, AJ Delario is the person who
Peter Thiel bankrupted or went after and personally in the Gawker suit. And it was an incredibly cruel and unnecessary dehumanization of one person just to try and make an example of him, and was sort of the first of the targets that I think Thiel has started to go after, and it was also a reason that there's been such a chilling effect in the rest of journalism going after Thiel in the years since. Like, you don't see any accountability journalism about him because of what happened to AJ.
Who has a really good podcast right now called Small Bow. And it's a community and newsletter. And I really want to have him on the show. AJ, if you're listening, open invite. And he's been sober for a long time now. His story is actually a really wonderful story, personally, if you look at the whole picture. But what they did to him, just as like a random, not random, but like,
but
and they convinced themselves they were punching
up. Not. Yeah. And so all this to say, like, they understand systems and power really, really well. And people aren't really taught in terms of those things, like the folks who are in the audiences and people who are just using a technology platform. And I have friends who like, I'm going to start a Substack. I'm like, first of all, there's no such thing as a Substack, right? You can have an email newsletter. But I was like, when you write a book, do you have an Amazon? Right? No, we don't do that around here, right? Like, we don't let them own our shit. And like, it's really, names matter, right? Like, you don't put out a film and have a Warner Brothers, right? Like, it really, really matters. And they're in your head if they let you do that to you. And in a second, I could talk about like, what is the thing that you're trying to get to and what do you care about? Do you care about who the company you keep? Do you care about what their agenda is as a platform? And let me tell you, and also there are great alternatives. This is one of the things that I love. So like, there are wonderful options here. I'm not asking you to take like some vow of celibacy. Because like, if you're making videos and like, don't use YouTube, like that is a bridge too far. Okay. Like I'm not going to push you that hard where you like, go make your stuff in a corner and sit alone and think about what you've done. But, I think, so like, I'm not a zealot. I'm just like, when there are reasonable choices, we'll do that. But I think that's been the thing that's hard, is people have come to understand technology as a thing you just choose socially and not a considered choice, and this goes all the way back to like, everybody got on Instagram 10, 15 years ago. And it wasn't like, they're like, I'm going to look at 6 different apps and see which has the best filters. I mean, you just go where your friends are. And getting back to people seeing technology as a thing that you make an affirmative choice about, and like, people don't even choose Android versus iPhone. They're already one of those. Right. And so going back to like, no, you make choices. They don't make choices for you. They don't inflict that on you. You don't have to do the same thing. And there isn't some cost to you to make a different choice than your friend. It's not going to be the end of the world. And you're still going to be able to do, like, teaching is still going to be able to do everything, even if you make a different choice than somebody else. Like, that's very foreign to the current technology world. But back in the 90s, everybody used all kinds of different stuff. Had different laptops, used different web browsers, different email programs, and like, it was cool. You didn't even worry about it. And so that's the thing that we're going to have to, and I don't want to go back. Like, there's not like good old days. There's lots of problems back then, but I think teaching people, like, it can be a form of self-expression. There could be a multiplicity to it. Creatives already know this. Folks don't mind if, this person's using Final Cut and this person's using Premiere and this person's using DaVinci Resolve. There's no sweat about that. It's like, you can still all make a great film. You can still all make a great video. There's no worry about that. If this person uses Pro Tools and this person uses Logic, you can still make a great song. So like, there isn't a worry in creative communities about homogeneity, that you all have to be on the same tools. So if we can get that spirit to come back into people who consume or connect, and think about technology as like, it's enabling you, then that's going to be the thing that will get us out of them having used technology to enable authoritarianism, because that has been the guiding fact of this century, is that they use the convenience of mass technology to enable authoritarianism. And we let them, because most people didn't know that's what they were doing. And then the people who did know what it was doing were like, if I jump on board with that, I can make a lot of money.
Wow. Well, this hour has just flown by. Guys, there's so much more that we want to talk to you
Sorry,
about.
I'm a yapper.
No, I mean, it's a high quality yap. It's a high quality.
Got to get you back to talk about AI some more too, because
let's do it. Short version I'll tell you is, I think AI that we can ethically live with is coming.
Okay.
And we're just going to need to teach people that it's possible and they can make that choice. But it's going to be a fight.
Well, we are a podcast about how creatives of all walks of life are making it through this moment in our economy. And so one of the most important things we do as a show is turn the show over to our guests to let people know how they can best support you. So if you got something to plug, now's the time.
Well, I write at anil.com. I would love for you to join me. You will get a lot of different topics in those emails, so get ready. I'm not offended if you unsubscribe.
You're ready for Prince in a bikini. Just
exactly. That's right. And then a little bit of talk about like how to have AI that doesn't make you want to hurl. That's it.
Thank you so much. We have to talk more often than I think once a decade or so.
Yeah, every couple of years. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I'm a fan of you both, so it's a joy to get to talk.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.